So please give Jack the warmest welcome.
It's that guy, yeah. Hi, how's it going? Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I do have poetry for you tonight. What I have for you is a story through the medium of poetry. And though some details have been changed to preserve the anonymity of those involved, I assure you, this is a true story. In and amongst the sea of women and men, hustling and bustling, each rushing to escape some commuted fate, I am here waiting for a second date. The first date happened a few days before, and I don't know what it was she heard or saw, but she seemed to have a good time, or in me saw some good signs. We spoke about our lives, talked and shared. We exchanged a kiss at Trafalgar Square. So we agreed to meet up again, and hence here I am, standing at Paddington Station at 10 to 10. She's from South America, her name Valentina, and she has this lovely, warm, inviting demeanor. Her world is politics, history, mine, physics, philosophy. We had chatted about current affairs, and it was not lost on me that she was really smart. I joked I felt dumb. She was perfectly speaking her second language. I barely have one. Politically, she was a lefty, and we shared the same concerns when we had previously walked through London's twists and turns. For the record, we had matched on Bumble, and while usually in text I stumble, she had been flirty. She was in her 30s, and she was in Oxford for 10 weeks to do a human rights course. She worked for the UN in some advisory role of sorts. She was smart, elegant, perfect, practically without flaw. I say practically, maybe there was one thing wrong, minor detail really, not something to focus on. More of an incompatibility, not a cause for incivility. You see, she had revealed to me, between these two dates, that she was into astrology. No matter, we've been here before. Cue my well-rehearsed, honest apology. I'm sorry, that's not really my thing, I say. I'm skeptical. But some of my friends share those beliefs as well. And so while I can't say it means much to me, I will of course respect your beliefs, as I would hope to do with any religion or spiritual tradition. She replies, "Thank you for your honesty. It is important to me. I think it has good predictive qualities. So I'd like you for a moment to partake, and please offer me your birthplace, time, and date." Which over WhatsApp I did. "We're very compatible," she tells me quickly, "possibly meant to be." She points out my rising is Aries. She asks if I'm sexual. I say fairly. Allegedly, my signs line neatly in her chart, some planetary geometry predicting matters of the heart. Specifically, my rising Aries parks happily in her house, which is supposedly destiny's sign of a compatible spouse. She tells me our north nodes, our synastry, ties our fate. And I reply to all this, "Great! Let's see." I try to dampen my incredulity. She sends me charts and explains her system, and I, of course, dutifully listen. And it's interesting, I suppose, perhaps my mind is just too closed, but at least she knows where I stand, regardless of what the fates may or may not have planned. Anyway, this is minor, not important at all. I tell myself as I see her approach me from the platform. She felt like spending some more time in London to see some sights, and here I was, a willing tour guide, more than happy to oblige. We kiss hello. The date has started off well, my nerves are quelled. She's lovely, and though she'll be returning to South America soon, it's nice to spend another morning and maybe afternoon in good company. That's what I foresaw, or rather hoped for. So we walk down Ladbroke Grove arm in arm. She's incredibly cool and calm, and I hope I'm not being a bore as I begin a brief local tour. Before long, we find ourselves in a bakery, specifically a bagel place, to pause for a beat. She said she had never had a bagel before, and I'm not one to gatekeep, so soon in a corner we sit, salmon, cream cheese, spreads and dip, and almost immediately as we sit, there's a blip as she quips, something offhandedly to do with quantum and healing? I jump in on instinct and say, for me that phrase is deeply unappealing. It's an example of these spiritual types leveraging scientific language and terms to make their claims sound more legitimate by using fancy words, to dupe those for whom physics isn't terribly clear into thinking that science supports more fringe ideas. Valentina pauses. "But don't you think your energy is quantum?" she asks. Well, that depends what you mean, I replied, taking a sip of water from my glass. The atoms and molecules that make up my body surely obey the laws of quantum physics, but there's nothing mystical about that. That's just science. She continues, but don't you think that people who are more spiritually developed are more radiant? I'm confused. Her point is less salient, more alien. Metaphorically, I know what you mean. Sure, I say. I've described some people as bright before, that they light up a room against gloom and doom, or that they're warm, or that they glow. And maybe this correlates in some way to emotional maturity or those that pray. But I'm hesitant, no dare I say reticent, to say that these folks glow in the dark, or that they're bioluminescent. Valentina then drops the first bomb with zeal. But there are large conglomerates of people stopping research into psychic abilities. Psychics are real. I say, I think that's unlikely. There's no one organization that controls the world's science, and rightly, there are thousands of journals around the world, thousands of journals around the globe, each acting as an individual knowledge node. To censor them all would be insanely hard. Plus, scientists wouldn't want to guard a discovery like that. Whoever got there first would have fortune and fame. They'd entirely rewrite how we understand the brain. The whole way we see the world would never be the same. If psychics are real and no one's been told, who could you possibly blame? The lizard people. The what? The lizard people. The ones that are trying to enslave the human race. At first I think she's joking. A smile starts across my face. But then it freezes as I stare, seeing her demeanor and glare and the lack of irony in the air. I realize she is serious. This is a new experience. I must admit, I'm totally perplexed, unprepared. For how long was this going to go undeclared? So I simply state, right, my mistake. Could you please elaborate? Which she does. You see, the lizard people are from another planet, thousands of light years away. They ruined their home through fights and wars, and now they seek a place to stay. They developed intergalactic travel and incarnate here in human form. They wish to dominate and control our lives from the very moment we're born. I'm sat kind of dazed, but Valentina is entirely unfazed. Her tone has not changed, as though what she's saying is as clear as day, and I can no longer hear the noise of the busy bagel cafe, so baffled am I, my thoughts astray. What to say? So if I may, the lizard people, the Draconians, that's their name. I see. So if they are here, why do we seem to live in relative peace? If they're so technologically advanced, surely it would be easy to cause our existence to cease through some new weapon or engineered virus that's tailored, or maybe just some big-ass laser to turn us to dust. Well, that's because angels protect us. Oh, angels exist too, good to know. There's clearly more to this, and so I said to myself, prepared to further learn, mentally noting that we're probably doomed long-term. But even so, how do you know all this, I ask. Working out what the hell is going on is clearly the most pressing task. What can be asserted without evidence can also be dismissed without evidence, I say, and on this I will not waver, to quote the most beloved Hitchens' razor. I've spoken to one for a bit, she says. My psychic teacher acted as a conduit. And I heard firsthand what the Draconians have planned. And I have to say, it's all so sad. There's this holy war that goes on all around, and most people never hear a single word or sound. It's really quite tragic, she ends, nonchalantly digging into her bagel again. And this sends me into an internal frenzy of, what the fuck is going on? All this stuff is, to say the least, wrong. Yet it's clear she's being sincere, so I try not to be dramatic and opt for an approach that approximates the Socratic. So who's an example of a lizard person? Donald Trump, she says. Other world leaders too, you can always tell. I take a moment to sit and dwell. Oh wait, are you a psychic healer as well? She nods. My mistake, I say. And hey, no one can say I don't ask good questions on a date. The conversation continues, and between some bagel bites and suspicions of Big Pharma, Valentina drops another bombshell, the existence of karma. Yes, karma's real, and as I eat my meal, she tells me for every law of physics, there's a spiritual law, like Newton's third, providing balance as a cosmic seesaw. But the universe isn't fair, I opine. Bad things happen to good people all the time. Not true, she defends. All will get their due in the end. So I pose a question for which I think there's no answer. Tell me, how do you explain kids dying of cancer? What wrongs have they done that I have not? What sins could they possibly commit from a baby's cot? This doesn't affect Valentina's vibe. Well, they must have done wrong in a previous life. Okay, so psychics, karma, lizard people, and past lives. This is quite the conspiracy stack. Still, I try to keep my good nature intact. So you think they deserve it? I ask. Or, she says, they chose suffering as a spiritual task. You see, before we're born, we can choose our fates, sufferings and pains to willingly undertake, people and places that are spiritually relevant, all to help our soul's development. Good grief, I think. This is a hateful belief. Victim blaming to a cosmic decree, judgment for others, but not for me. If I'm lucky, therefore I've been good. Is that what I've understood? I'm cashing in points from a previous life while millions and millions are paying for their apparent misdeeds with strife. If something naturally exists, then good it must be. This, my friends, is the naturalistic fallacy. So let us moralize on fairness. Don't give it a second thought, for in this life you surely reap what you wrought. Or worse, you chose it yourself? This life you elected? So empathy freely rejected. Unsure of what would or should convince her otherwise, I take a step back and try a slightly different tack. Your beliefs are unfalsifiable, I claim, totally unpliable. If I show you a bad thing happening to a bad person, that goes in your evidence pile. But if I show you a counterexample, good things happening to bad people or the reverse, you have an out, past or future lives, which you can't see or know or hope to show, so please tell me what evidence I could possibly find that would cause you to change your mind. There isn't any, she replies. But the thing is, it all makes sense, and so hence, I believe it. I pause, trying to shut down the stores of fallacies and philosophical clauses within me that disagree so vehemently. That's not enough, though, is it? I say, most explanations work. Like the idea that in the corner of this room there is a man who lurks, except he wears a cloak of invisibility. Hence, there is nothing to see. I know it seems like he's not there, and no matter how long you stare, you won't see him, but trust me. You see, it all makes sense. It explains what we see, but do you believe in this man, or do you think he's imaginary? I don't think he's real. I have no evidence for that, she says, as she gives me the smile of a Cheshire cat. We sit there for hours, and to her enormous credit, while for me it was a bit of an emotional ride, she took all my questions and poorly suppressed facial derisions in her stride. Despite our verbal bout, she seemed to never waver or doubt. With her demeanour, she seemed to simply say, "Don't worry, you'll understand one day." So we decide to head back to Paddington Station after a brief vacation at my flat, where we made out for a bit. This may surprise you, given the prior clashes of ideas and wit. But despite her, to me, making little sense and it sometimes being tense with the contents of our talk bordering on the psychoactive, I still found her quite attractive. The conversation was, in a sense, fun, and I think she felt the same too, so what to do? I wasn't going to not invite her back, that would have just been rude. As the date comes to an end, I can feel my mind trying to bend with the weight of a problem that's tough to disguise. As I said, Valentina's not dumb. She's intelligent, even if we don't see eye to eye. So how does she end up believing in draconians, psychics, past lives, and star charts? How can people be so physically close but live in worlds so far apart? She listened deeply and respected my ideas, as I tried to do with hers, mulling over the various implications of her words. Maybe the issues aren't all hers. Perhaps they're mine. I was raised on equations, maths, physics. Some New Age spiritualism is her god, but science is mine. Must love demand identical views? Can we exist in separate truths? Am I afraid, perhaps, of feeling stupid and absurd, of admitting truths beyond those that I can understand or have heard? No. Some ideas are bad and wrong and worse. Not all ideas are created equal, some belong in a hearse. As you may recall from history, there have been loads of really bad ideas about the mysteries of life or morals or fears we once revered. The dominant narratives aren't perfect, this is for sure, and science isn't finished. There's always more to do and to discover and criticize and improve, but how we improve is partly by discovering what's true. But hey, maybe there are lizard people. Perhaps some are in this very room, walking among us, secretly planning our doom. behind the scenes supporting every terrible cause, putting humanity's growth on pause. Or perhaps the truth is complex, that people are flawed, and that there is a lot more to understand, than explore. The truth is, I do not know for sure. Maybe I am wrong. But for now, I'll place my bets with beliefs that don't fail an evidence test. In any case, eventually we're stood face to face near the Paddington Station ticket gates, and for our last topic, perhaps it isn't odd that we were discussing the existence of God. But isn't the beauty of nature enough? Valentina asks. Just look at it. The wings of a butterfly, a baby's sigh, the light of an owl's eye, the sound of thunder. How could you see all of that and still wonder? Valentina, nature is brutal and savage. It wants to kill you. And it would do it too, were it not that you and I were here in this station. If we were to be teleported to any natural place in the world, I don't care what you say. Nature would kill us in a day. We have beaten nature back with a stick, for it is powerful, yes, but it is sick. It is built on kill or be killed, pain and suffering, and there is more pain. As Schopenhauer says, when describing the nature of the Great Mother, compare the respective feelings of two animals, one of which is eating the other. And seeing all this, I can assume that if God exists, his or her base nature is wrought with wrath. That is to say, that if they are real, God is surely a psychopath. Apologies if this comes across as tactless, but there is no God, we live on a rock in the infinite blackness. And when you come to that view and finally see, I'd love a third date, feel free to call me. I have a few going at the end, but otherwise, thank you very much. Appreciate it.